Justin LaBar with Trib Live Radio here in Pittsburgh, and happy to have on the line a guest, a man that I look up to very much, and I consider the greatest voice in the history of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. He is Jim Ross, good old JR. Jim, how are you?
I'm good, Justin. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate the introduction.
Thanks for taking time, and let's just go right into the big news. You got a new project going on with Access TV. I'll let you go ahead and give me all the details and hype it, but this is very exciting for fans of yours to once again have a new project to enjoy of your voice.
Well, Friday night on Access TV is our debut episode. Josh Barnett and I will be broadcasting New Japan Pro Wrestling beginning on Friday night and subsequently every Friday night after for the foreseeable future. And also on Friday night, I'm the guest of Michael Chavallo on a special Voice Versus 1 hour TV interview. So it's a big night on Access on Friday night. So I hope the fans will check it out and see how we do and see if I've lost my ability to call a wrestling match or not. So it'll be fun. I'm excited about it. And working with Josh is fun. I've personally invested in the product. I like the presentation of the New Japan promotion. So it was a really good opportunity for me. I think I really hadn't been motivated to get back into wrestling because, once you're in WWE for 2 decades plus, it's hard to go anywhere else, and especially unless the product is just absolutely different and unique. It fits my, my likes, my wheelhouse, if you will, and I thought New Japan did that. So it's a big weekend for us. We're excited about it.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit more about that because that's what kind of, as happy as I was to hear this news, I think it a little surprising to me because you've been pretty committed to, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of offers, but you've done what you want to do. You have a great podcast with Podcast One, and you kind of do what you like. But something about this with New Japan must have really grabbed your attention. It must have been a right deal to put you back at the announce booth.
Well, I think going over last year and broadcasting Wrestle Kingdom 9 pretty well sealed the deal because I got the chance not to see an edited version of a TV show, but I got the opportunity to sit at ringside and watch it happen and to watch the uncut, real event. And it really sold me on their brand and a lot of their talents. I was just amazed how good they are. And it's a throwback as far as fundamentals, in my view, to another generation where fundamentals are more stressed than they are today. So it wasn't a hard sell as far as the product was concerned, and I'm happy that Mark Cuban's got nice pockets, and they were very. We came to a quick agreement, and I'm really happy to be on the team. I think it's going to be a fun run and a fun opportunity to get some skin back in the game.
JR, are you anticipating having more creative control or just being able to fly a little more freely at the announce booth, versus we always hear, and obviously you can speak to it, there's more managing, there's maybe more cues to hit or more notes coming in a headset from producers or from Vince with WWE. Do you think you're going to have a more open environment with your New Japan time?
Well, I have an open opportunity to take us where we need to go. I've done 6 shows in the can, so we had Josh and I did 6 shows the last time I was out in LA, and I heard our producer counted us on the air and counted us to break. He counted us from break back to the show and then to the break again. So that's how we were produced. We went over we had a production meeting, we went over the talent, we went over the matches. We prepared like we would be doing a football game, or an MMA event, or a boxing event, like I'm going to be doing for CBS Sportsnet. So that was our mental approach to the show. But the producers let us go. It's really smart management if you think about it, because you hire people thinking that they can do the job. You prepare the people as diligently as you can, and then you send them out there to do their work. And yeah, they need some help every now and then, or might be a suggestion here or there, but the best producers I've ever worked with in football or MMA or boxing or pro wrestling, which is the majority of my broadcast time, were the guys that said very little. You know, when I worked for Bill Watts in the Mid-South and EWF, we had somebody counting us to break, same deal. We didn't have anybody feeding us lines or say this or say that. Now, if we didn't do well, we got it corrected, and you know, sat down with Bill and went over things, but you really were allowed to be yourself, and so it becomes a more organic, natural broadcast. And I think that's the business in general is missing that, and I hope that we're able to fill a void that we're going to call what you're seeing on the screen. We're not going to talk about other ancillary products that are on our shopping list or on our grocery list of things to mention.
Well, I would agree with you. Just as a broadcaster myself with far less experience than you, I would agree with you in terms of that's a formula for a winning producer and a winning way to do things. Why do you think, let's say in WWE, why do you think there is so much more micromanaging?
Well, they have a lot of content to get in. I mean, it's like an infomercial in some sense. Not all of it, obviously, but they have a lot of masters to appease. That's just they're a massive company. I think that because WWE is the center of the wrestling universe, they're the NFL of their genre, and I just think that all wrestling companies, if they had a policy that from bell to bell we're going to focus on the match, we'll get all the other stuff in that we normally would get in during a match. We'll get it in a non bell to bell opportunity. And I think if they tried to adhere to that philosophy, that the wrestling fans would more enjoy the broadcast. Because anytime you're seeing one thing and you're hearing another, it's inevitable that there will be some sort of disconnect. And as a producer of television, you don't want there ever to be any disconnects from your content. Just that's the kiss of death. So I just think WWE is in this position because they have a lot of things to sell. They have a lot of information to provide, and I think they can still do that. But I was looking at their show this week, and they had some matches that were 2 minutes long. Maybe it's something. I think Miz and Ziggler were shorter, maybe less than 2 minutes. So I think you have a hard time convincing me that you can't, in that 2 minutes, just focus on the match. And so no matter how long the match is, that should be the focus. And you sell a lot of things within your commentary about the characters, the matches, why they're wrestling, what's at stake, all these things. There's a lot of topics you can talk about that don't disconnect the viewer from what they're seeing.
JR, you beginning to call weekly action from New Japan on Access, it comes at a great time because specifically for fans in the U.S., New Japan Pro Wrestling has been constantly in the headlines and in conversations, largely to do with, or I should say, increasingly has been in conversation in the headlines, largely to do with AJ Styles coming over to WWE. A lot of rumor and chatter and anticipation that the members of the Bullet Club are coming over. How does that did that play? I know you talked about Wrestle Kingdom from the past and your enjoyment, but does this come into play at all for you? That it's New Japan, at least to the American crowd, is having an increased amount of publicity and kind of hit while the iron's hot, so to speak.
Well, I'm glad. I was watching New Japan on Access since it started. I have DirecTV and cable, which I'm a TV junkie. But I have DirecTV, and I watch Channel 340 on DirecTV. I got it memorized. So I was sold on the brand. My issues always in wrestling have been, A, do you like the product and the people you're going to work with? Pardon me. And B, can you manage the travel? And so the fact of going to work for Mark Cuban's network, Access TV, not only are they great guys, they're big fans. They grew up listening to my work, a lot of the executives. They're really cool guys to be around. I like the product. They're paying me well, and I get to make about 8 trips a year to L.A. My wife loves going to L.A. She's my Pittsburgh wife, and so we, it worked out great. Travel was good. The product is good. The pay was good. So it just worked. It's a great timing. I'm really glad that WWE hired Mauro. Because one, Mauro gets to live his dream, and the guy deserves it. He's a good friend, and he's a hell of a broadcaster. But it opened the door for me to try to cut a deal with Access, and Access made sure we were going to have a deal before we stopped negotiating. They were very aggressive, and they were very compatible in what we thought we needed to do that responsibility. So it was just perfect, man. I'm really excited about getting back in the game. And we got two goals. One is to build a brand on Access of New Japan Wrestling and try to get more involved in the New Japan brand. I'd love to go over there and call some live matches back on Access, broadcast back on Access at some point in time. That'd be a goal. It's not being discussed. It's a goal. And secondly, Josh and I are both competitive guys. He's the youngest UFC heavyweight champion, and I got a, anybody knows me will tell you, some will embellish, but I got plenty of healthy ego. I don't want to place for second. I want for us to be the best broadcast team in the genre, period. And we're going to do that on 1 hour a week on our show and do it in a unique environment. But we're going to show everybody that we're going to be able to replicate what the sound that comes out of a voiceover booth very admirably. And of course, the journey starts on Friday night, so we'll see. Hey, look, I know one thing: as soon as that show airs, that there'll be tweets out there, there'll be emails, people will be hitting me, or people will be, how did it sound? Did JR, was he off? Was he slow? Was he, what did he do wrong? And that's good. I don't have a problem with that. But the bottom line is we plan on getting better every week.
Absolutely. Talking to Jim Ross, legendary wrestling broadcaster, who's you can now hear him on Access TV, as he's going to be doing New Japan Pro Wrestling every single week. JR, while we have you, you did mention Mauro Ranallo, who is now on the SmackDown play-by-play task. I know Mauro confirmed to me on social media a few weeks ago. Renee Young was a big part. His fellow Canadian was a big part in getting him, getting everything going with him in WWE and that done. And I know that Vince McMahon's not at SmackDown as much as he used to be. Do you think Mauro, who has a great, unique voice, do you think it'll be able to withstand and hopefully continue to improve in the WWE environment, as we talked about, somewhat of an infomercial in some ways? Do you think that that's going to be a good fit in the long run for him?
I think that Triple H, Paul Levesque, and Michael Cole were the two guys that are the most instrumental in hiring Mauro. And I think they pitched Kevin Dunn, and they made a very wise decision. I would just tell you this, that behind Nakamura, HA, and Gallows and Anderson, but certainly behind HA and Nakamura, Mauro is arguably as good a hire as WWE's had in a long time. So I'm really happy for him. I think he'll do very, very well there because he has Triple H's backing. He's produced by Michael Cole, the guy that helped hire him on Tuesday nights. He rides with Michael Cole, so he's getting a great indoctrination to the product and the WWE way. And there's more about the WWE way than just what you hear on the air. It's how you conduct yourself and how you prepare and how you approach your job. So I think Mauro's going to do great there, and more power to him. I hope that he has a long run. I hope he has 21 years there like I did, and so I'm all for him. And he adds a different sound, and but you still got to have. It's hard to replicate an amazing moment in 2 minutes.
Sure.
That's tough. But if Mauro can find his way to get some assignments on pay-per-view, I think it'd be a travesty and an injustice if Mauro doesn't get something at WrestleMania. Yeah. And I also would suggest that I'd love to hear WrestleMania with the King getting a match after all those years. So that's just me as a viewer. No dog in the hunt, but that's just a viewer talking. So Mauro's a good hire for WWE. I think he'll have a really good run there. And it's great that they're allowing him the opportunity to continue to do MMA and boxing. So he's got the best of all worlds, and I couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
JR, while we have you real quick, you mentioned WrestleMania. One of the marquee matches so far announced is a Hell in a Cell match between two guys that you're very familiar with, Shane McMahon and The Undertaker. Obviously, Hell in a Cell You've had some famous calls, some famous sound bites. One of them right here in Pittsburgh from '98. What's your, as a viewer, or as an insider in the business, either way, what's your take? What's your look at this match and the fact that Shane McMahon trying to get control in the storyline that's coming into play? What's your take on this?
Well, I'm going to be in Dallas. I got 3 one-man shows there at the House of Blues, just after on Saturday, the Hall of Fame. Then I got the other one after Raw on Monday. So I'm going to be down there. I'm not sure if I'll go to WrestleMania or not, but I'm damn sure going to watch the show, without question. And I think it's a good booking. When I came on TV last week, I was recording with Mark Madden, our podcast for last week, where we reviewed Fastlane. And my wife texted me and said, Shane O'Mac's back with all these exclamation points, and she's never texted me at work on that topic about something happening on Raw. So that told me that it was special. I heard it in the airport in Oklahoma City. I went to Las Vegas last week for our press conference for Fight Night at the D, the CBS sports series I'm going to do starting March 12th, and everybody's talking about it. I mean, they weren't talking about WrestleMania necessarily. They were talking about Shane McMahon back. So it got a lot of people talking. I think there's a lot of ways to get multiple characters involved in the storyline. I think Undertaker and Shane will have exactly the kind of match that I'm envisioning. It won't be Briscoe to Punk. It will be a brawl. It'll be a lot of kicking and punching, and maybe some attempts at submissions and some strikes and some things of that nature. They'll play to both their strengths, and I have no issues that they'll have a solid match. I'm just not one of those ones that. I'm a big believer, Justin, that people should be able to express their opinion. They can do it on my website. They do it on Twitter. They do it on questions on my podcast. But I don't have to agree with everybody's opinion, nor are they mine. But I find it somewhat embarrassing that people got so vibrantly fervent last week about Shane McMahon. Within hours of him debuting on TV, they're just castrating the angle, and they're prophesizing gloom and doom for WrestleMania. So how people can do that with any validity, with any forethought, is beyond me. And I find it sometimes embarrassing for my fellow wrestling fan that they're actually, hitting themselves in the face with their knee jerks. It's like a Three Stooges routine. You got to be kidding me. And this week on my podcast, I kind of editorialized on that a little bit about the pros and cons of this match, and there's a whole hell of a lot more pros than cons as far as I'm concerned. So, because we don't know how it's going to unfold. We don't know what's going to happen in Arlington, Texas. We don't know what's going to happen between now and then on Raw and so forth. So, I like where it started. I want to wait and see how it finishes.
I agree with you. I think I agree. I'm not sure why people were cutting the match short already, especially with Shane, who has his father's crazy courage, but also has a lot more athleticism. I think him and the Undertaker, it's a great potential for the story. So we'll wait and see what happens. JR, thanks so much. So many great projects. Obviously, again, congratulations. Access TV every single week. Starting New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can hear JR. Of course, podcast still on Podcast One, the blog every single week, barbecue sauce. I mean, you're everywhere, and it's great, and I'm happy for you, and I'm happy you took the time to talk to me. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you down in Dallas.
No, also too, Jess. I enjoy your work, and it's always sample what's going on in Pittsburgh so I can converse with my wife, and we're Steeler fans, and we're big Steeler fans in Norman, Oklahoma, so and it's not unusual, by the way. So I appreciate you having me on, and keep up the good work, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks.